I'm Chris Bernier. I'm one of the regional vice presidents here in Massachusetts. I'm going to be facilitating today. And I think it would be hard to not come out with a lot of great information from this event today. We have a really special presentation, and the people who have agreed to donate their time and their thoughts today, I'm going to be spending a little time introducing them as a group and giving you a little bit of their statistics later. But really phenomenal. I'm very grateful for them for doing this today. They are going to be sharing, they are the best of the best, and they are going to be sharing ideas and thoughts on some of the most important phases of the real estate process. So I think it's going to be a great presentation for you. Before we introduce them and begin, I'd like to introduce another great real estate industry leader. She's a visionary and someone who has a great vision for our company going forward into 2012 and beyond. Our new leader and president of Coldwell Banker, Pat Villani.
Now, my applause for all of you, because without all of you, none of us would be here. And I hope you all know that that is my philosophy. First of all, Happy New Year, everyone. It's wonderful to be excuse me, in January and no snow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I am really excited to have all of you here today. And I would love to just take a moment and thank the panel. They are a tremendous group of talented people who, for them to be sitting here and not looking at their phones or feeling them vibrate.
We're looking at them underneath.
I know. is not an easy thing, but it's very, very important to the RVPs, who I'm very proud to work with, and to myself, that we get back to the visions of thanking all of you and having events just like this. We're going to have many, many events in the future, and it's our way of saying thank you. And let's get together and talk, share ideas, because the talent is in the room. It always has been. And during the very difficult several years that we've gone through, things changed a little bit. We had to hunker down a little bit. And if any of you know me, and I know there are many of you here that have worked with me for a lot of years, my philosophy is always, okay, you gave me this much money to spend, now double it. So I have a lot of events planned. I do have an award ceremony that your RVPs and I are planning that I hope will be something that is completely different and something really special, and I hope that you will all come to it. The dates and things are being worked on because of changing it, really changing it up. But all I can say to all of you is, I know you have the hardest job in the industry. You are out there day to day working with your customers and your clients, trying to balance your lives at the same time. And we're all here to support you. We're all here to thank you. So anything that we can do to make your lives easier is what we're going to do. Come into Waltham, say hello, come visit, send emails, suggestions, ideas, anything that you would like, because it truly is your company, and we're very, very proud to be leading you, hopefully, out of. The indicators are terrific. There's absolutely great indicators. I was with Bruce Ziff yesterday in Connecticut for a meeting, and he, excuse me, he is seeing things change. And relocation is seeing 2,000 people being transferred into Massachusetts by companies, not out, in, which is a great change for all of us. The unemployment rate, you all saw that that changed drastically. So there's some great news out there, and you are all the newsmakers in this industry. So thank you for coming today, for taking the time, for driving, for getting in that traffic. I'm actually staying at the Embassy Suites this week, so for once I got to lie in bed and watch the traffic report and not be in the middle of it. But with the traveling that I'm doing, I get to know everyone there. The maintenance people know me because I'm up so early, and I have to get extra shampoo and conditioner for Dave Caristi because that's the only kind he likes to wash his hair with. So I'm tipping all the maids and getting as much as I possibly can. So it's just, you know, when my husband came last night to have dinner with me and we're walking through and he said, "How do you know all these people?" They're all like, don't worry about it. It's just, and I can look out my window and see where the office is. So anyhow, thank you all. I know you're going to have a terrific year, and starting off with this wonderful group and what they do. And I'd like to say one thing, that these 5 people are 5 of the top 10 in our company. And no matter when I go into an office, no matter when I see them, they are always upbeat with a phenomenal attitude. They never sit there and go, "Whoa, the market is this," or "this is wrong," or "that's wrong." They get up every day, they go out and they list property and they sell property. And no matter how the market's changed, their attitudes have not. And that's what makes a difference between being successful and sitting back and saying everything's wrong and none of it's my fault. So I congratulate all of them, and I thank them for taking the time to do this. And I look forward to everything they have to say. So enjoy yourselves, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I'd like to begin by introducing our panel. This is an extremely accomplished group of real estate professionals, and they have been really the top leaders of our company for the last many years. Each of them has a long, successful history in real estate with numerous awards. When you look at their resume, they're quite lengthy. And the accolades, the list of accolades is tremendous. We would love to share each of their resumes individually with you, but in the interest of time, and I think probably more appropriately in this venue, we thought we'd just share statistics for them as a group to give you a sense of what sort of production they do together. So if we could just show some of the things. Actually, it was in the top 12, Pat. All members were ranked within the top 12 in company closed gross commission income in 2011. See, they are looking because they didn't know this about themselves. Combined years of experience, 163 years. Gee, you don't look that old.
Gail, you have 100 of them.
Combined closed transaction size for 2011, 363, 6 people. Closed dollar volume, 374 million. Gee, we have offices that don't do 374 million.
We're going to start our own office.
Combined listing units, 344 listings for over $400 million in listing volume. It's pretty incredible. Nice job, people. So let me just introduce each of them individually. On the far end of the table for me, Laura Ballestero from the Carlisle Concord office. Next is Debbie Gordon from the Brookline office. The hometown person here, Jim Nagel from the Lexington office. We have with us Gail Roberts from the Cambridge office. And last and certainly not least, Donna Scott from the Wellesley office. So welcome and congratulations. We've created a format that we hope will bring out the most information and most insight for you by asking each of them to speak for 2.5 minutes on each of 6 real estate topics. And it's a short period of time. Daphne and I, who were working on this, tested the time to see how it goes. But you can actually say quite a bit in 2.5 minutes. It gives us an opportunity to have each of them speak on each topic. Lead generation, the listing presentation, listing seller management, pricing and price repositioning. We've had to do a little of that lately, right? Business planning, and finally working with buyers. We know there might be some repetition in that, and that's fine. I think if you do hear the same thing from all 5, it's something you might want to do. Okay. And I also want to, I was remiss in not apologizing for Brigitte Sinclair. She was originally planned to be here for the event, and unfortunately she had a major change and sudden change to her business this last week and just found it impossible to leave. So she did want me to pass her apologies along to all of you for not being here. Nonetheless, we have an incredible panel here still with us, and so we're looking forward to doing this. At the conclusion of all of the topics, we're going to be doing this topic by topic and asking each to speak on each topic. We'll have a question and answer period, so I'll ask you just to write down any questions you might have, and we will have microphones and an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation. So we will begin with lead generation, okay? Personal promotion. We purposely left these topics open and broad so that we asked each panelist to give us their pearls of wisdom, any thoughts that they thought were most relevant for their business and whatnot. So let's begin with Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura. I've been in the business for 35 years, and this is the one area that I think has not changed dramatically. The way I look at my business is really I look at it as my business. And when you get in the mindset that you are in business for yourself, it opens a whole vast amount of opportunities. It also opens up a vast amount of effort that you have to put in to make the cash register ring. And I think that's what you have to think about is, how can I use my time to make the most amount of money and make the time that I'm working pay off? So what I do is I always start with my book of business, and I refer to my book of business as Bob. And Bob is a list of clients that I've worked with in the past, people who refer business to me, such as lawyers or mortgage brokers or whoever, present clients and past clients, and anybody who I want to do business with. Those are the people that I hold in my book of business. And I have conversations with those people. And this is so simple. This is just not rocket scientists. You could be the worst salesperson in the state, and you can still make a lot of money because you also have the law of average working for you. So the more you speak, the more your chances are that you're going to get referrals. So you ask everybody. You say to them, who's your broker? I mean, everybody likes to talk about real estate. And people have their doctors, they have their lawyers, they have their accountants. Who's their broker? And if they say that they're working with whatever, then you say, that's a great person. I like working with that person. Never knock the other person they're working with. But if they're not working with anybody, then you can also ask them, would you consider me as your broker? Would you consider using my name, referring me to people who have the need to buy or sell a house? And by the way, do you know anybody who's looking to buy or sell a house? People love to talk about the market. I also do monthly newsletters, and I do them an email newsletter, and they're quite effective because whenever I send them out, which is usually around the 10th of the month, my phone starts to ring afterwards, and it's a very soft sell, and it has a personal letter from me, which is always kind of upbeat. It has 2 homes that I highlight that I'm listing, talking about those particular houses, and then some canned material like, why it's important to have insulation in the winter or whatever. And then my assistant always includes a really cool seasonal recipe and a cocktail, a seasonal cocktail, and people love those, and so that's nice. But it's a nice way to have your name in front of people every single month. Anything I do to advertise, I always use my voicemail or my cell phone. Don't use the office, because often they may call in and they don't ask for you. So use your cell phone or your voicemail. And I don't rely on the office just to create marketing materials for you. Keep in mind, this is your business. So spend some money on your business. Advertise. Send out just listed. Just send out just sold cards. Put an ad in your local paper. But do definitely spend money on your business. There's a whole wave of social media stuff going on right now, and I do think that it's important to be part of it. I have my own Facebook page. I have to admit, I don't know how to manage it, but I have somebody who does manage it. I'm on LinkedIn, Trulia, Zillow, whatever people are looking on, you need to be current and you need to be on it.
Laura?
I'm done?
Few more seconds. You got to cut it next time. It's going to take us a little bit to get into the pace on the
Okay.
2.5. But
So where do I stop?
yeah,
You're
we're
done.
going to move on. But those were great ideas. We got an awful lot out of our 2.5 minutes there. So it's going to take us a little while to. It's going to take us a little bit to get into the pace of that. We have a little signal. We're going to dim the light a little bit, and when I stand up,
All right. Oh, I saw
think
that
about
happen.
cutting it off around there, okay? Okay, thank you, Laura. That was great. Debbie.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say congratulations to everybody who's here. The last 4 years have been brutal, I think. There have been brutal buyers, brutal sellers, brutal banks, and brutal inspections. So we all deserve a big hand for that. And then for anybody who's interviewing with a competition this week, why don't you leave now, because we're not going to tell you all of our secrets. So you've been through the hard part, just hang on. I think that this year is definitely a breaking year for all of us. And the signs are already there this January. Maybe the snow has expedited it. But simply for leads, I continue to do some of the things. I, like Laura, go to work every day. I don't work from home. I work in the office. I find the office stimulating. I find that that's where you're going to get information that's relevant to your business. The little secrets that you're going to hear, the pricing of other people's property, whose buyer is going out in the afternoon. That's all information you're going to use to be the authority that you're going to tell your sellers and buyers you are. And once you hear a piece of information, you can use that information. It's going to be real estate related if you're in your office. If you're at home, it's not necessarily going to be real estate related. So that's important to me. It may be old-fashioned, but it works for me. The other thing is we do some very simple promotion that almost everybody can afford. We advertise in a lot of local venues. The local newspaper, the elementary school news, the private schools newsletter, their events, their productions. Those are very inexpensive ads. And if you consistently put yourself out there in those kinds of publications, that's the community I want to be involved in. And one person in that community leads to another person in that community. So although we do a big net of advertising, and I pay for a lot of individual advertising that's not company sponsored, that's a good place to start. The music school or the local band, you can become a big sponsor with short money, and that will create some good leads for you. Keep going till it stands
You
up.
were very good about seeing that light. Actually, that's at the 2-minute mark, so you can sort of finish up. Sorry, it'll take us a little bit to get into the groove. Thank you, Deb. That was some good ideas in the local there. Jim Nagel.
How you doing, folks? I'm strictly, I stick to the basics. There's no magic formula to guaranteed success. You have to make it happen. You all are aware of that. I do town market mailings. I do 6 to 8 times a year. I use the 8.5 by 11. I make sure my picture is on the back as well as on the front. You only have 3 seconds to capture your client, potential client. So you want to remember that. Local newspaper, local cable TV, church bulletin. I support all of the school athletic teams, as many as I can. I'm also in, most of the towns have the new patch. That's the latest gossip in the town. And, you know, you have to belong to you have to support your community. I've identified my clients as the whole town, every seller in Lexington. So that's what I focus on. But when I started out, I was new to Lexington around 20 years ago. I didn't even know the town, but I picked my neighborhood. I picked 200 houses, and in 20 years it has grown to the whole town. And you have to be present. Wherever you go, you're always on. And basically, the media, I know the social media is out there, it's new, I'm just getting involved in that a little bit. But again, you know, I also use Top Producer for Realtor.com, and it's very costly. The cost up here, it is expensive, but the rewards are greater. But you can start out slow and still achieve the same effects as you go on. The key is you got to be consistent. A lot of people, I see it in the office, they come in, they do this, they come in with their mailers, they do it once. And then they don't get any business and they blame the market. I think my colleagues can say the last 3 years for us, they've been 3 of our best years, and that's, people can't believe that. And you want to stay humble, you want to stay under the radar. It's just enough, it's a fine line. You don't want to be too slick, you don't want to be too dull. And you want to provide a lot of information out there, so you're always on wherever you go. You go to the local store, you say hello, they want to talk real estate. You set it up, so it's basics. And I have a lot of mailers, a lot of marketing pieces, like all of them, so anytime you want to come to the office and shadow and come in and see how it works for the day, you're welcome to do so. We're always open.
Thank you, Jim. So local. You support all the local teams. That's fantastic. Good for you. That's what makes the difference. Gail.
Ditto, ditto, ditto. I think one of the biggest things that I find that works for me, I brand myself. I think everyone out there should be branding themselves and have a look that becomes recognizable to you, so that it's the same. All of my things are the same, they recognize it. Repetition, when you send something out, they say you have to hit someone at least 7 times before it becomes ingrained in them. So I have postcards that I send out regularly. And you can come look at this later. It's all about the property. It's very simple. It's the same look that's on my listing sheets, that's in the magazines, that people begin to recognize it. I also have, and you can start small, I have 2 big events every year for clients. Last year I took over the Museum of Natural History at Harvard. Sometimes I've done it at a house. Invite your people. People know that I introduce people within the community. Also serve on boards. I'm on several boards, so I become the real estate person on the boards, whether it's UNICEF or Board of Overseers at the Mount Auburn Hospital, or go for something that starts small and moves up, but be there and do something that interests you. I also think that you have to keep getting to the people and talking to them. When I have people, I let them know I'm part of the community. Introduce people that they come to you because you're going to introduce them to the people in the community. You are the person to go to. Also, when you think there's nothing to be done, there's definitely something to be done. If you have nothing to do, call up your past clients, call up your past customers, talk to them, get your face in front of them again. Call and say, hi, I just drove by the house, I saw you painted it, or saw something. I remember someone saying, well, I'll just send an email. An email doesn't mean that they're gonna speak back to you. They may respond, they may not, but if you're talking to them, you're not asking for anything, you're just calling to say, hi, I loved working with you, how are you? Then they say, gee, I have a friend looking for something. You're getting something back, but it shows that you really care. Also, thank people for the referrals. If a past client or customer did something, send them a small box of chocolates. Send them a Starbucks card, whatever it is that you do, but say thank you. People like to hear thank you. Is that it? I've got more. Anyway, this all comes up again under marketing. So we'll just move on.
That's a good break point. So branding, you do a lot to have a consistent branding message
I'll say
out there.
quickly, Coldwell Banker lets you brand. You don't have to sell the company, because Coldwell Banker sells the company. I'm sorry, I passed my time, but you know, I love saying this. Hammond's not here. At Hammond, you have to sell Hammond. We don't have to, because Coldwell Banker sells Coldwell Banker. We can just sell ourselves.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Gail. Thank you, Gail. You might want to slide the microphone down low. Those are wireless.
Hi, I'm Donna Scott. I've been doing it 17 years, and I love what I do. I get up every day, I get dressed, and I go sell real estate. I think Coldwell Banker helps, being the leading brokerage firm in our marketplace, and their advertising and marketing really helps. I do a lot of additional mailings, and I feel if you do a good job for a client, that's the best form that you get back in return, because they'll tell their friends. And everything else that everybody said, I think I agree with. So good luck and get out there and sell.
Okay, great. Thank you, Donna. Yes, Jim, did you want to add something?
Yeah, just I'd like to add with Coldwell Banker, and we'll never know, and I like Gail branding, and all the personal marketing that we do, we brand ourselves. But a lot of times, you would say something that's simple like, big isn't always the best, but in this situation, when Coldwell Banker has the most market share, it's going to generate more calls on your home. So all you have to do is say that to them. You know, why use Coldwell Banker over someone else? Then you just show them the marketing tools, and it's a no-brainer.
That's a good point. Okay, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is a nice, your words are a nice segue into, Jim, because we're going to be talking about the listing presentation next, seller presentation. We often call it the marketing proposal. It's that moment of truth when you finally get the lead and you've converted it into an appointment. You're going to sit down with the seller and discuss their property, pricing, and you know, why they should choose you and Coldwell Banker. So why don't we start from the other end of the table? Donna, we can start with you.
Okay, listing presentations. When I tour the property, I make notes in my head of what needs to be done. And if you get the listing, then when I go back, I sit down and I go over everything, like, you know, cleaning your windows, fixing ceilings that are cracked or stained, cleaning your gutters. All the sellers think their property is more valuable than the property down the street. You must make them aware of the differences in the two homes. You really need to know your inventory and your competition, because they'll ask you questions and you really need to be precise, because more than likely they've been in that home, but they see their home being better. One of the most sensitive discussions you have, so you have to really tread lightly, is really giving them an honest opinion of what their property is worth. And that's difficult to do, but it's a big mistake if you don't tell the seller really what you feel they'll get in the end. You may not get the listing in the beginning, but they'll probably call you back to get it a second time. So you're better off getting it the second time when the price is right. Thank you.
Words to the wise in this difficult pricing market, Donna. Okay, Gail, if you'd share some of your ideas.
First of all, I do a two-step. I go in, write down, take my notes. I don't remember anything. I have to write it all down. So I go through. I think it's also really important to listen to what the seller wants or what he expects, and ask them so that they actually hear you say, how can we best serve you? What are their expectations? Not necessarily in the way I do things, but after I've spent time with them, when we're leaving, we always thank them for their time. My manager, John Anger, I don't know where you are, John actually taught me that one, because they really should be thanking us. We've gone to their place, we've given them time, but thank them, because it always stops and they say, no, no, thank you. So now they're thanking us, and they may not be doing that with the next one. Also, they're calling us because we are the professionals, so we have to be able to say definitively, yes, you should wash the windows. I think on listing presentations, it's also important to explain why you do things. For instance, they'll take us through the first floor and often go down to the basement. And I'll say, no, no, we're going to look at the house the way a buyer would see it. We don't want to go to and explain it. We don't go to the basement, because if you take the buyer to the basement and you've done the first floor, you're going to go directly from the basement, skip the first floor to the second floor. It becomes more stairs. So explain it, because all of a sudden you've said more than maybe someone else has said. Wow, she's got a good thought that way. If you're standing in a house, you'll say to them, well, if we were actually showing the house, I wouldn't be doing it this way because you're facing the wall. I want you to face the windows. So start explaining why you are good, sort of a subtle approach. Tell them what you'll do. I don't actually give dates, like, well, this will be done in the first so many days, because I don't want to disappoint them or have them say you were supposed to do this on day 6. It's like, you know, I'm lucky if I remember day 5, 6, or 7, but within the beginning. So try to exceed their expectations by doing extra things. I'm also in the process right now of designing a little book. I have a team. I am such a lucky person. So we're going to be able to send to them in the beginning. I think most of the listing books that go out, that every broker, they all look alike, all the companies. So I'm trying to revamp that and change it. So before I get there, they'll understand who my team is, how I work, and who we are. They can read that, and then it doesn't have to go into the book. Oh, I don't know. Go ahead.
I think there's some great kernels there.
Sort of gets
Some wisdom.
nerve-wracking.
I use a one-step approach. For me, market knowledge is key. When I get a call, I'll drive by the house, I'll check not only MLS, FSBOs, but banker and tradesman. And if the house sold a year ago across the street and you only pull up 3 or 4 months, they're gonna ask you about that, and you're not gonna know anything. So you have to be really well informed. Getting down to objections, like a lot of people state, no, you sell it as is, you gotta sell it just the way it is, I don't wanna do this, I don't wanna do that. And I say to them, it's simple. If I came to your house in my pajamas, would you hire me? And I say, if you don't allow me to stay.
It's good.
I say, and I sometimes if they smile, I say, I got some bad pajamas, but oh, yes. So basically, I use that, and they smile, and then it's easy to overcome that. And like Gail said, they're calling you. So as much as they may stand there and say they know it all, they really don't. And they want your advice, and they want to hire you. So once you're in the door, you should get the listing. And that's, you need to have the information to back up why they are hiring. Commissions, why they should sell it. Is that on this? Yeah. Objections, set and expectations. Just use the pajama thing and you'll get the listing every time.
I like that, Jim. Well,
Okay, thanks, Jim. I think we'll hold off on the lights. I'll just stand up and I will let you know. We'll make it a little easier so I can adjust the time a little bit.
Oh, one thing, so that old saying, perception is everything, just add that to it.
I do the two-step listing presentation. I go in and see a property with very few exceptions, take my notes, go back to the office and prepare a bound book and go back with my listing presentation. I find it very difficult. Our houses are so dissimilar from each other, and the condition of the houses is so dissimilar, I find it very difficult to do it with one shot. Is Brad Rowell here today? Oops, sorry. We had such a disastrous listing presentation the other day. We did a two-step process, and we went in and told the people that the house should be worth $2 million, even a little less. And the 2 other brokers who had already been there had told them $3.5 million. I'm good. But Brad wrote the most beautiful get back in the listing letter that we should all have a copy of, because he's going to get us that listing in spite of what we went in with the price. But we'll compromise now. We'll say it could be 2.5. No. So we were not telling you the most expensive price. We were telling you what the conservative price was. We were telling you the bottom price. So, but he wrote an incredible letter, and one of the things that he said in his letter was, then when you hire us, we can take all our arrows from our quiver. And so he's great. He's really wrote a great letter. But anyway, I do the 2-stage process, and I tell people when I leave the house, I sort of try to gather whether or not how many other brokers they've seen. I try to figure out who they are. And I tell all my sellers, no matter who you choose, and I hope it's me, you need to be comfortable with the person you're going forward with. They're going to be the person that opens your door, that's in your house, and you're going to have a very lengthy, not necessarily very lengthy, but lengthy relationship, an intense relationship with that person. And so by opening that door, I find that people understand a little bit better what the process is going to be. Also, one of Gail's points was very important. You need to explain every process. People don't know what a PNS is. So when you're at their house, don't talk about a PNS. Don't talk about in your real estate lingo. You have to really explain things baby steps. So that's important. Yeah.
Great. So there's a tip that you hear repeated. Great, thank you, Debbie. Laura.
I do a 2-step CMA, and I struggle with this all the time because I know a lot of the trend now is to do it in one-stop shop. But before I go to the listing, I psych myself up and I say, okay, I'm going to see if I want the listing. And it makes a whole different mindset than thinking, oh, they're going to see if they want me. Because I have a philosophy that I'm not going to work with anybody that's creepy, who's unrealistic, or who's mean, or who's going to erode my life. So I'm interviewing them. And so it can be a little challenging, but if their price is right. But I do want to make sure that I like them and I feel comfortable in that situation. I also want to make sure that I'm speaking to the people who are in a position to make a decision to list with me. So look and see who's on the deed, and make sure those names are in front of you when you're talking. And in the first go around, they don't have to both be there. But when I come down and I start telling them what I can do for them, why I believe they should list their home with me, I want to make sure they're both in front of me. I also go and I say to people, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I say to them, I am a strong listing broker. I enjoy working with sellers. My skills are stronger with negotiating and marketing than driving buyers around. But because I am a listing broker, it's important for me to have my listings housed in a company that I believe will best serve these properties. And I tell them I shop for a company just like they would shop for a company. And because I did my pre-shopping, I am 100% convinced that Coldwell Banker is the best place to market your property. And then I go into the reasons why I think it is a good company. And if you don't think it's a good company, you shouldn't be working for the company. And I'm sure other companies have their strengths also. But if you're listing a property, it really is a great company to work for. So.
Great, thank you, Laura. That was interesting, you know, how you tell them you've already done the shopping.
You've already done
You
the
don't have to
shopping
look
for you.
again.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot about being informed when you go in and informing the seller and not thinking that they know what the process is. It was interesting to hear you all have a common theme there. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next topic, which is after you get the listing, you were successful, and you are all very successful at that quite regularly. So now you have them and you're working with them. What do you do to make that process go smoothly and have it end successfully with a sale? Why don't we begin in the middle this time? We'll begin with Jim.
Follow-up is key. You've heard this before. Biggest complaint sellers have, or clients, brokers don't get back to them. You always have to get back to them, and if you don't have the answer right away, get back to them and say, I'm still working on it. Let's see. We're not stages, photographers, contractors, inspectors, appraisers, bankers, so always defer to the professionals. You can always give your opinion, but have the right people do the job. Marketing, you know, it's, I go to houses sometimes and I see a piece of paper for a listing. I always, we put together brochures. I also have I have a great team, great supporter, Carol. She's here. And when you go into a house, you're trying to extend the quality of the home, and by putting together a brochure, it gives a feeling to the buyer that a piece of paper does not. So we do floor plans, we have the plot plan in there. We do professional photos that they have lenses as big as shades. And you're trying to extend the quality of the home to the consumer to solidify the sale. Let's see. We're always in the globe, whether it be Boston.com, brokers tour, public open houses, and to attract other brokers. It used to be you have a little lunch. Now you have to have gift certificates to restaurants. then they may come back and say, well, do you have another restaurant? Because I really don't like it. And those are brokers, and you have to smile. So, you know, everything, again, it goes back to the, I'm always in my suit. It goes back to the pajamas. Every piece of marketing material is an extension of yourself. And a lot of times you'll see and you're always wondering, you'll see it on the kitchen table. And then the seller will say, oh, I looked at your brochure, it's wonderful. And it just eases the way into the house more. Let's see. Okay, that's what I need here, stage and marketing, engagement, negotiations. Follow-up, even with the buyers. You don't want to give buyers are out there, everybody's online, they're, I call them, I won't tell you what I call them. They're brokers in training. Right. So they all have the information, but they don't know, like, the private sale across the street. They don't know that the school is being torn down. They don't know that the taxes just went up, or there's an override coming. So you really have to be knowledgeable of your market area and provide them with information like, I didn't know that. So you really have to dig deep, and you are the source of knowledge for these people. And once you've convinced them, they will hire you, that you're the person to go with. If you're going to be a buyer's agent, make sure you get a contract.
That's a good point.
That's basic. Home inspections, when you represent the seller, you want to be there. You just don't want to hang out, catch the paper, or you want to listen, you want to take notes. You want to be able to relay the information back to the seller and give your opinion, what is reality and what is not. Be on top of for financing. You know, watch those contingency dates. Oh, we didn't hear from the broker. You know, we didn't hear that. Oh, it's their fault. It's not their fault. Every deal's important from the beginning to the end. Appraisals. Okay, so appraisers now with the banking laws changed, they're not the local person that knows the local market. They could come from South Shore. They're looking in Lexington. They do the Zillow thing. 2,000 square foot house on a busy street is the same in a nice neighborhood, and that's not true. So have 4 or 5 comps. Have a brochure with the floor plans, everything they want. Provide them with as much information as you can, because then in the end, if they have not used some of your comps, there is an argument. So I have heard of a lot of problems this past year with appraisals, but I have not fallen into that category. So just do your homework and you'll be fine.
Okay, Jim, thank you. That was a good comment on the appraisals with all that we've been through there. Important. Why don't we come this way, Gail? We'll have you speak next, if you would, please.
First of all, I think that when you get a listing, it's one of the best ways to really start getting yourself out there, because now you can start marketing. Again, it goes back to that lead generation. I don't know which comes first, but you get your name out there, start sending things out, because that's something that you can do. Also, I think keep things simple. People don't want to read a lot of stuff. So if you're going to send something out, keep it really simple. When you show a property, I think a seller wants to hear from you right away. Exactly what Jim said. The only reason you're going to lose a listing is because you lose touch with the seller. Sometimes it goes for a week or two, you don't have any showings, and it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Go and talk to a couple of brokers in the office. If you talk to 3 brokers in the office that's talking to a few brokers, ask them, do you have any buyers? What can we do? Then utilize that, go back to your seller and say, look, I just want you to know, I've spoken to a few brokers, I'm going to speak to a few more. They don't have the buyers, or they feel that we're not priced right, because that's just something that you can blame it on the market, not on you. But at least by talking to brokers and showing activity, it gives you something to do. I also do floor plans for every property. And again, I think that marketing and lead generation go together, but if you're going to do floor plans, explain to them. I believe in doing floor plans. It's part of our marketing, because not everyone does them, so get credit for doing it and explain how important it is. I don't usually go without words. But you also want to listen. When you bring buyers in, you want to listen to what they need within the house. Getting back there. Well, staging is a huge thing. We won't show houses that are empty. Even if I have to pay for some of the staging, we will stage it, and we make that a really big deal. It's like showing up in your pajamas. It's that blind date. It's that first impression. We all know that. It's the windows. And if you explain to people, look, studies show that the brighter and sunnier a house is, the more money that you're going to get. Generally, you can get them to take down the damn shears and open up the windows. It's no different than saying to someone, look, we put out a big bowl of chocolate. If your energy level starts to go down, buyers are going to leave. I don't know if we do it on a listing presentation here or just on marketing the house. I want to make sure that, especially if it's an empty house, there are hand towels, soap, and toilet paper in every bathroom, and explain that to your seller so that they are aware that you're doing this. If someone wants to use the bathroom and they can't, they're going to leave the house. Mr. Seller, I don't want them to leave. This is something that we think about, i.e. maybe the next broker out there doesn't think about it, but we're thinking about it. Photos have to be time sensitive. If you have photos on your properties right now that are filled with green and trees, all the buyers are going to see subconsciously, oh, that's been on the market for a long time. We have buyers that say, well, I've got some great spring pictures. Great, we can maybe use them in the back of something, but they have to be time sensitive. Also, I don't think toilet seats should be up. But the last thing, quickly,
Yep, please do.
You actually, listening to buyers, and not to dump on Hammond again, but Hammond's in our area. Yeah, go ahead, dump. They often only have 4 or 5 photos. We do a lot more. And you've got to explain to people that they do say that you have to have at least, I think it's Realtor.com, if someone says you have to have at least 6 or 7 photos or a buyer moves on. So even if you've got a shitty little kitchen, stage it a little bit. Sorry, I'm sorry. Do something.
I think they know what you mean, Gail.
I didn't drop the F-bomb. But put something in there. Make it show so at least subconsciously they say, okay, we'll have to do something with the kitchen. But explain it to your seller so they understand that you understand, and that's where your mind is, because other people aren't explaining it. Sorry.
Great, thanks a lot. Okay, great, thanks, Gail. Donna?
Okay. When I get a listing, I go over and I try to stage it myself. I'm not a firm believer in staging, and I'm sorry, but I'll tell you, I'm not convinced that it accelerates the sale, not to mention the high cost of doing it. And I have found a company that does virtual staging, but in a lot of the new constructions, I too put soap and towels in houses, and even listings where people have grungy towels, I bring brand new fresh towels. And one lady, after they were dirty one day, called me and said, your towels are dirty, are you going to bring cleaners? Another one, I brought this beautiful bowl from my home of fruit and put it on her kitchen table. And this is a lady that went to Harvard Business School, really bright, and she called me up and she said, the fruit's gone, are you going to replace it? It's like, are you kidding me? But I'm a firm believer in staging it, and I bring things from my home. But I try to personally accompany all my showings. I always present my offers in person when I can, because I think when you're sitting there with them, you really get their reaction. And I had one this past year that it was my son's best friend from growing up, his parents. And I went and sat with them, and the husband was like, you know, Donna, there's the door. I'm not selling my house for this price. Well, 2 days later, he sold it for that price. But I went over there at night, and I discussed it with him, and I really worked on his wife. And I said, look, you bought another house. There's no other buyers. We've had this on the market 8 months. You know, you've got to work with me here. And he finally did. But I think I go to all the building inspections, but I find the inspectors now, if you're not the buyer's agent, you're the listing agent, they don't let you go around with them. And I've had inspectors want to sit with the people afterwards and say, excuse me, you're the listing broker, would you please leave the room? So I find I listen to what I can, but I'm always there at the inspections, and then you have to renegotiate after the inspection. I try not to cut my commission. I feel I work really hard, and I just tell them if you... And the only time I do is after an inspection, if there's a long list of things and, you know, you're like, you know, so close. It's crazy not to, because they're going to it's going to happen to the next buyer, or they'll give it to another broker. So I think it's important to be there. I do floor plans. I do professional photography. I have somebody come and do it. I do a virtual tour. So we offer all these things for their home, and nice brochures that other companies don't. I usually bring fresh flowers. I always do a luncheon because I think, you know, most people will come for a free lunch. Get people in there. And I find that, you know, you just work really hard, and feedback is essential, and I'm a firm believer of calling people on the phone, because you get their expression and you can hear in their voice if they're happy or not happy. And I'll say to them, I'm really sorry it wasn't a good showing, or when it is a good showing, I think they need to know that. Thank you.
Yes, great. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Donna. We are filming this, by the way, and we will tape it. There's so many great things being said here. You know, I can imagine if I was writing them all down, it would be difficult. So know that it is being videoed. So, Debbie.
Managing. So you have a new listing. That's, first of all, your opportunity to do some great promotion for yourself. But I feel that if I'm proud of my listing, I'm going to present to the public and to the other brokers a package that I'm proud of. So we make as a professional looking package as possible: professional pictures, professional floor plans, virtual tours. Sometimes we add in lot plans or information about where the school bus is and what day is trash day. And it's something that has your name and your number on it. It's going to a buyer. It's an incredible opportunity. You'd be surprised when that buyer calls you back and says, you did such a nice job at that house. Come see my house. I want to list it. So you're not stepping on any other broker's toes. The other brokers are giving your buyers brochures that have their name on it too. I'd rip off the back page before you give it to the buyer. But you're going to be managing this listing. I have in the practice of when I am leaving the listing after a showing, I pick up the phone and call the seller. So I don't forget to call the seller. And another important thing that some brokers, no matter how much experience, forget is secure your house before you leave. I think it's extremely important, especially when it's inclement weather. Make sure the porch door is closed. Go around twice to make sure another broker didn't open a door in your house. And the sellers will really, really appreciate that. And if a door is left open, that's the easiest way to lose a listing, or to have it start off in a pissy relationship with the seller. So, by the way, on staging, I tell all my potential listings, that if they hire me, I'll pay for $200 of professional staging advice. I find it's very difficult. You can gauge how far a seller's willing to go, but there are some sellers you can take your shag rugs off, and there are some sellers that you will leave your shag rugs on. So I find that if I do it through a third party for $200, and people like that you're spending money on them, then it's a third party that's telling them things that sometimes are too sensitive for you to say to them, you know, because you'll always be the broker that hated their rug. So.
That's great. Thanks, Deb.
I agree. I always offer staging. I offer 4 hours of free staging, which is a little bit more than 200, but less than 300. And it's really important for me because I want my pictures to look good. I believe that the pictures are critical because that's where most buyers shop, is online, so you want the house to look as great as it possibly can. And I want my sellers to like me, so I don't want to tell them that their kitty litter box smells, and I don't want to tell them that they have too many pictures of their kids. I also manage expectations right up front. So this is what I say. I say to them that the market changes, and the market changes very much like the stock market changes. Prices go up, prices go down. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to not only be communicating with them what the buying public thinks about their house, but I'm going to communicate with them what's happening in their price range. So if another house comes on the market that's comparable to theirs, whether it's comparable in look or price, I let them know. If another house goes under agreement, I let them know. I'm constantly telling them what buying decisions are made. If a buyer sees their house and buys another house, I tell them, remember that couple from Chicago? Well, they bought that house. And then they'll say, like, well, why? And you know, I'll explain why I believe that they bought that house. This is so important, and I always tell my team this. I'm going to tell you also. Be so careful what you say in somebody's house, because now people have these little nanny cams. And seriously, you're representing the seller, and you could be walking in with a client and saying, I don't know what you could say. Maybe you could say, like, they're not good housekeepers, or I have a friend from another marketplace, and she said that her client said that the kid had a big head. And with all the pictures. And then they called and they were mad because they had this little nanny cam thing going. So always assume you're being taped in the house. You know, like, don't open the refrigerator unless your refrigerator is included. You know, like, be careful. And also, I set expectations. I say to them right up front, I believe the market believes that your house is worth this right now. But if in 3 weeks we don't have enough showings, or we have many showings and we don't have an offer, you're going to need to reduce your price. And I tell them right up front that. So when I call them in 3 weeks and start talking about price reductions, it's not a shock. And I really like to try to sometimes even get the price reduction when I get the listing. So have them sign the price reduction form while you're there. Say, okay, we're going to start this. In 3 weeks, we're going to reduce it 5%. Also, another thing is, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, this is another thing that's really important, is I manage the vendors. So if they say to me, we're going to use our nephew who's a lawyer, I always say, is he a real estate lawyer? And if he's not, I really suggest that they use people that I know that are deal makers, not deal breakers. And if I go in the house and I think there's something wrong with the house, like there's mold or there's something structurally not quite right, I do encourage them to do a pre-home inspection. But if they have no money, don't do that, because if you find out there's all these problems, then you have to disclose it. So if they aren't in a position to fix it, don't do a pre-home inspection. But I do sort of manage who's coming in the house. I also, if I don't like the home inspector or the pre-approval that the buyer's agent brings in, I tell them, this pre-approval is not acceptable. I need a mortgage company that I feel comfortable with to take a look at your clients and give me a better pre-approval. If they have a home inspector who's horrific, I say, nope, we need to get another home inspector. This home inspector is not the standards.
How can you do that?
I just do it.
Well, if you have a I wouldn't let one of those home inspectors in that don't let you.
I don't do
Okay,
it.
let's go to that
And I
next
just want to
topic.
say one other toilet question, one other bathroom thing. People say to me, like, are they going to rob my house? And I've never had anything, nobody's ever stolen anything. But I do tell them that if somebody asks to use your bathroom, you have to say yes, they can use their bathroom. So I do tell people to take drugs out of their medicine cabinet, because I have heard that people do use the excuse to use somebody's bathroom, and then they steal their Viagra or whatever. So
That'll be the men.
Right.
Okay.
If the house is cluttered, why would someone want to buy a house that you have outgrown? You know, and it's just, I mean, that's, I think, an easy way to get there. Ed and I went on a listing presentation the other day, and obviously my nose was stuffed. He walked out of there and said he was about to be sick. I said, I didn't smell anything. He said, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to take back a couple of the brokers and blame it on them, that they noticed the bad smell. I mean, they're going to take the dogs out. But it's hard that way. And if you say you're selling a lifestyle, this is why it's not, you know, this is great, but we're neutralizing. I don't know. I was just trying to give you words if you didn't have them.
No, I appreciate that, Gal. That's great. I'm hearing a lot that you're trying to keep a little distance between bad news and yourself and the seller. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's move on to our next topic, which is pricing and price repositioning.
You want to let them know that you are the expert, that you want to maintain your position, that, well, unless you have to make a change. She's still the expert, but she has to make a change.
Flexible.
That they are coming to you because you know the market. And that's another thing that's really important, is to get out and go to all the open houses that you can. If in your area they don't do broker open houses, go to the Sunday open houses and know the market so that you become the knowledgeable person. The other thing is you never want to talk about a reduction. If you use the word reduction, all the seller hears is that what are you reducing? You're reducing the amount of money that they get. So for those of you, I think this may have been from the Schweppe thing, but you want to reposition it in the market. You know, we talk about when we go on listing presentations, and I'll say this, the buyer has to perceive the value. The buyer has to walk into the property, Mr. Seller, and get excited and say, oh my God, what do I have to do to get this? I actually say, they turn to their broker, reminding the seller that I represent them. They turn to their broker and say, what do I have to do to get this house? They're emotionally there. Give us the money. And I say to the seller, if they turn to their broker and say, what do you think it's worth? Mr. Seller, we've just lost money because they are questioning the value. So you want to make sure that when you price it, you're pricing to get it. In my marketplace, we try and do it right. If we price it, well, we have no inventory, which is going to be different than some other areas. But I'm finding that if it's really priced right, we might get 2 or 3 people that come in and see it. So the other thing is, it's understanding. You also want to make sure that you're getting the right group of people. If something should sell for $500,000 and it's priced at $575,000, Mr. Seller, the buyers that are looking at that property are looking at $575,000, they're looking up to $600,000. Why would they buy something that's eventually going to sell for $500,000? So you really want to make sure, Mr. Seller, that it's right in that mark, because it's the first week or two that you really get the most excitement. I mean, When we bring a property on, we want to get 100 brokers in that property in the first week. They've got to perceive the value. They've got to get on the phone, Mr. Seller, and call and say, this is good, this is right. So that if there's excitement that comes along, then you get people coming in and looking. Okay, what else? I also blame it on others. It's not me. It's not me. It's the market.
Right.
The market has indicated you're really overpriced. Or the market's indicating that this isn't the right price for us and we're going to have to reposition it in the market. And that's just like such a huge, big thing. He's standing up. I'm done.
Well, unfortunately, if you have somebody that bought a house 5 years ago and they call you in to sell it, the market was really high then, and they're not going to come out whole. So that's a tough thing for them to swallow. You have to stay aware of the market changes and keep the seller aware of any changes. Be aware of the competition. Always inform the seller of what has sold and at what price. Explain to the seller that the property must be priced at the current market value, which is sometimes difficult for them to accept. Tell them the truth. Tell them the real number. And, that's not always what they want to hear. But ultimately, if you show them enough products and show them what's sold, they get it. Thank you.
I have a formula I use. I always tell my sellers that when they look at the homes in their price range that are going to compete with them, they want to be in the number 1 or the number 2 position. I take into account the overall features of the home, location, condition, of course, the price. I use this formula because the number 1 home will always sell and the number 2 will move up to the number 1 position. This can change as new homes come on the market, reduce their prices, go under agreement, and this brings me to price changes where Laura said every 15 to 30 days I put together a market update and a brochure, and this is how you achieve your price reduction, well, most of the time. And you show them the market, what has changed. And in any pocket, whether it be 100, say a house is between 7 and 900, usually between 1 and 12 houses on the market at one time, that will be a 30-day turnover. About a third of them will turn. If there's more than 12, you really have to sharpen the price and get it down because the market in that pocket is overcrowded. So when you do meet with them, have a formal brochure and give them a market update, and that's what I do with my formula. Number 1 or number 2 position.
I'm probably having more difficulty with pricing in my marketplace right now. It's very, when I need a price reduction on some of my listings, it's $1 million price reduction. And some of my listings are listings that were built 5 and 6 years ago, and people are way over invested. I have a $12 million investment for a house that's on the market for 7 currently, and those people are into the house for over 12. So they're very difficult discussions, and it takes a little while to build up to that conversation, and it requires both people who own the house to be there. What I try to do to predicate that conversation is to get people to see the other things that are happening in the market, and it's a limited market, so we have 1 or 2 $6 million sales that I try to get my sellers to either view online or to drive by. If there's an open house at a property in another price range, I would tell my seller to get in the car with me on a Sunday. Do you have 15 minutes? Can you come see our competition? So that you're constantly informing them of what's going on in the market. I do share with all my sellers any properties that come on the market in their neighborhood. I share who the buyers are that I've heard of. I make sure I go to the competitive listings. I make sure I know if the competing brokers are having showings and who their buyers are so that I can call that broker and ask them why they didn't come to see my listing. But for pricing strategy right now, we all need to learn some pretty tough language, I think, because the facts are the facts, and the buyers are looking for next year's prices, which they think are going to be softer. And we have to learn how to talk to our sellers in a little bit of a harsh new dialogue, I think, in order to get them sold.
Pricing is a hard conversation, and sometimes when I speak to my sellers, I think, oh my God, I know what it's like to be an oncologist, because you know, you tell them the price and they're horrified, and it's like, oh. And I always say, well, if I could make the price, I would like double the price for you because I want you to get the most money as you possibly can. And I always refer back to this is what the market is saying to us. I also say to them, we have to sell the house 3 times. We have to sell the house the first time to the brokers. We have to get the brokers to really believe that this is a good value. And then we want the brokers to go back and get the buyers excited. And then we have to make the appraiser believe in the price. And you know, a house doesn't sell for one of 2 reasons. The one reason it doesn't sell is because of the price, and the other reason it doesn't sell is because of the marketing. And I always tell them, I'm in charge of the marketing, so I'm going to do a good job, and you're in charge of the price, so you know, you gotta work with us here. And lack of showings, lack of interest is a very loud message that the sellers need to hear. I also always talk about timing, and I think this is an important conversation to have with your sellers when you're talking about price. So you say to them, okay, what's your motivation? Why do you want to move? Oh, they want to move because the husband got transferred to Chicago and the kids are here and it would be great to move after June. And then you say, all right, well, the average marketing time is 6 months. So here we are in January. So 6 months is February, March, April, May, June, July. Say you're in the average and it takes you 6 months to get a buyer, then it probably takes about another 2 months to pass papers. So now your buyer has to wait till September, and you're not going to get your money till mid-September, and that means you're going to be away from your family, your kids won't start school in time, and you know, really understand the difference between the correlation between timing and pricing, and then say, but you know what, we can rectify that by making the price more appealing. I also, in the old days, we used to do pricing like $299 and $199 or whatever. Don't do that. That's a really bad strategy because now most searches start on the internet and they start with 300 to 400, 400 to 500. And if you're pricing at that $999 point, you're losing a big segment of the market.
Well, that's interesting.
So with business planning, why don't we start with you, Donna, and we'll go down the line.
My business plan is simple. I always want to do better than the preceding year. I think basically you really have to be available when the customer wants to go look at the property. And you have to change your plans whether you want to or not. And that's sort of been my success. I'm always available. I answer my phone. Anybody that ever calls me for an appointment, if I don't pick it up, they'll tell you I call back in 10 or 15 minutes to confirm the appointment. So I think basically you really need to, just get out there, keep, volunteering, advertising, marketing, and working hard. And, if you do a good job for somebody, they're going to refer you, and it's just business that keeps on coming back.
Great. Thanks, Donna. Gail.
Well, it's written up there because, you left out staying focused. That's something I just don't do. That's really hard.
I thought I better take that out, Gail.
But I'm guessing that that's going to be pretty similar for any of us up here. First of all, I do have an assistant who is in the office and handles everything that I don't really have to be handling and what she is really good at. And if there's certain things, if you don't have an assistant or someone you're working with, if there's something that you're not good at, get someone else to help you with it and do it, because otherwise it just sits there. And you do have to try and stay focused. As I say, I only drink real coffee when I want to punish my office. But that way I come in and start getting things done, drives them crazy. But I think if you write down, I worked with a coach for a long time, if you write down, if you have a goal, make it fairly realistic. I used to sort of keep mine down. I was afraid to say, I wanted to make 500,000, I wanted to make 750, I wanted to make $1 million, whatever it is. Put it down, make something and write it down, because that really does help. I usually have a really good review with my manager every year, and we can sort of sit down and plan where things go, although it just takes some time to get me. But, and you can review as you go along. As far as it goes too, you want to make sure that you're doing something. Put on your calendar when you want something to go out. I do advertising every month in Boston Magazine. So I know that there's a full page coming out once every 12 months. I also take an ad out in Harvard Magazine. I know that that's going out every 2 months. So that's taken care of for me. So if you guys are gonna do something and hit people, put it on your calendar, write it down, because you don't see it. It's when you have a list, when you wanna talk to your sellers or your buyers, time can go really fast. If you put it on the computer, the days go by. I actually, this is sort of jumping around. I have this sheet, I don't know if you can see it, but for instance, what, no? No one can see it? They're younger, they can see, I don't know, the distance. But for instance, it says the date, the time, and so I will write down on here when I've spoken to my seller. If I have it in the calendar and the pages go or it goes, right here I can quickly see, oh my God, it's been a week or it's been 3 days. Same thing with buyers. Buyers just want to know, even if the property isn't there, that you're calling. So it's sort of part of a plan so you don't lose touch. If you're working with buyers, you don't want to lose touch with them either. So if you see it on one sheet for one thing, it's right there. What else on this? But that's good enough now.
Great.
Catch me later.
Thanks, Gail. So systems to stay in touch. It makes the difference. Great. Jim?
Mine is similar to Gail's. I have commitment is key. You have to set goals, whether it be in life or business, and you want to stay focused. If you relax by the fire in the winter, that's going to end up with being a slow spring for you. If you lounge around at the beach in the summer, then it's going to be a slow fall. You always constantly, you have to be out there, you have to be in front of it, you have to establish your business year-round. Let's see what else I have. And it's the same concept on your marketing. Like Gail, we all have plans that certain pieces go out certain times, and it just keeps you motivated. If I lose 5 pounds in life, I feel good. If I set a goal that I want 10 transactions in a month, and I achieve 8, I'm happy, but I say, geez, I gotta get the other 10, so next month I need 12. So setting goals, it's something to look forward to and to accomplish. That's what I do. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Well, you seem to be winning, Jim, so that's good. Debbie?
When I'm in a difficult transaction, I always say to the other broker, visualize the check.
That's good.
And I think that, you know, for all of us, visualize what your checking account's going to look like when that check is deposited. And that's the goal. You want to get to the closing. Some of these transactions are extremely difficult. You do them step by step, and you'll get to the closing. There is no, if it's not a problem, if there's no solution, it's not a problem. That's how I conduct my business. So there's got to be a problem. I love to troubleshoot when there's a problem in a real estate transaction. But I think all of us consistently would say the same things, that we have goals. There's been a goal on my desk for 15 years of what I want to do per month. And I look at that goal and I figure out how to get there. Believe me, there are some months I don't get there. And there are some months I overget there. But we all, I think, consistently have goals that we try to meet. And another thing that Donna said, which is very important, I think we're all the brokers who don't say no. If somebody calls to show your property, that's your business. You say yes. There's no, I'm getting my hair done, I'm not available, Thursday's a bad day, the kids are coming home early. Your job is to show that property. If your seller heard you say, and make an excuse for not showing their property in this kind of market, you're not doing your job. Then the other one thing I wanted to mention was in this kind of market, I think it's very important that we all support each other by going to see each other's new listings at meetings, at caravans, and at open house day. And it's in your best interest to do it, and to do it consistently, even if it's a price range you're not working in. It's nice to go see a $200,000 condo. The phone will ring, somebody's kid will need a $200,000 condo if you go see it. So I think it's important for us to support each other in that way, especially now.
I'm not going to say the same thing. I've been in business a long time, and I have been so incredibly blessed by this career, and I am so grateful that I'm a real estate broker and that it has provided a good life for myself and for my family. And I'm the second generation real estate broker, and my mom was a broker, and my grandfather was a real estate lawyer. And I sat at that kitchen table when my mom was in her pajamas and she had to run out to go present an offer and to do those things. And I don't do that anymore. And I do make choices, and I have goals. I have my goals. My team will tell you I'm the most goal person in the whole world. I have goals of what I want to do every single day. But I look at my week, a week-by-week basis. I have in my office a reverse thermometer, and every time we sell a house, we put a mark on it, and we really want to get to the top. And this year, we made our goal in, Debbie, when did we make our goal? And when? That was our second goal. The summer, we made our first goal. And I took the summer off, and we made our goal this summer. And now what I do is this. I look at my week every single week at a time. And I say, what do I need? What does my family need? What is important to me? I've made a commitment the last couple of years that I want to really reconnect with my girlfriends. So there's not a week that I don't have a lunch with my girlfriends or a coffee with my girlfriends. There's not a Saturday that I don't spend a big chunk of time with my husband. And there's not a time that I don't go to certain appointments or meetings that are just about me or exercise. And I find that if somebody wants to see a house during that time, I say, I'm sorry, I have an appointment. And I don't say that it's with my yoga instructor, or I don't say it's with whatever. And I have incredibly competent, incredibly blessed members of my team that I can say, can you do this for me, or you can do that. You've got to delegate because you lose your life. And then what I do when I make my goals, I say to my family, listen, guys, this is what I want for our family, and this is what I want for myself. And I might not be able to be at every one of your games, and I might not be there when you call me, but this is the reason why I'm doing it. And when I get to this goal, this is what I'm going to do for you. And then they buy in for it, and they understand. But if you are everybody's whim, you're going to hate this business. And I don't hate this business because I'm not at everybody's whim. And you can drive by my office, and you'll see me there at 9 o'clock at night. And you can drive by at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you'll see me there at that time too. But if it's a time where I've made a commitment to one of my kids or one of my husbands, my husband, or my husband, or to one of my girlfriends, I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to do it because I'm not just a real estate broker.
So different strategies. Balance, Laura. You're shooting for balance. I think that's true about real estate. There's a lot of different ways to do it successfully. So let's move on to our last topic, which is working with buyers. We do a lot of this, and there's a lot to it. So we've left it open as a topic to speak in any aspect of it that you'd like. Why don't we start in the middle with Jim?
Working with buyers, buyer agent contract is the number one. It's essential to qualify your client. Do they have to sell something to buy? What's their time frame? Pre-approvals are important. Get to know their whole story. Meet with them personally and really listen to what they're looking for, and it will help you identify the right property when it becomes available. If a client is not willing to come into the office, then the probability is they're really not that serious. Always ask if they're already working with another broker. We all know sometimes buyers will call the listing agent or call up the desk to get to see a house when the part-time broker is not available. Know your inventory. Go on broker tour, check MLS, FSBOs, like you would any other business. Know your market and know your product. You can encourage offers by providing valuable information throughout the process. An informed and educated buyer will know that it is time to act. An uninformed, unprepared buyer will hesitate. As you are working with buyers, also review the information, this has been said earlier, about under agreements and sold homes to review market timing for appropriate priced homes, multiple offers, etc. This will put them in a position to know when the right home comes on, that it's priced to sell, they would need to act fast. Buyers should be absorbing all the knowledge you have to offer. And that's basically what I have there. We touched on the home inspection. You just want to be there and listen and take notes. So.
Great, thank you, Jim. Debbie.
Well, you and Pat aren't going to be happy to hear this, but I've never had a buyer's contract signed by any buyer.
I said there are different strategies, Debbie. That's fine.
I haven't either.
Gail hasn't either. That's not the point.
But we're old school before buyer's contract,
But I will share with you that I've very seldom lost a buyer that I've begun to search for houses with. I do mostly listings, so I don't take out that many buyers. I take out buyers that are referred to me by existing customers or by past customers. I'm not looking for buyers at open houses unless it's the buyer for the property I'm looking at. If there is a good buyer there, I'll refer it to somebody else in my office. But as long as you're informed about the market and you know what's coming on next and what's going on next, and you can tell them, as Jim said, which school is being ripped down or expanded, or where there was a trash heap and is now housing. And you need to know the subtleties of your market, because these internet buyers don't want to hook up with anybody. So they will hook up with you if you have information. So I think the informational part of that listing and selling is equally important.
Great, thank you, Deb. Laura.
Okay, so I don't like to clean my car. My car is a mess, such I don't like buyers. I refer my buyers to my team, but if you bought a house, sold a house, or your parents did this either or, I will take you out. Buyers are fool's gold. Work your business one seller at a time, and you'll make a lot more money.
Okay. Are you sure about that?
You need buyers, though, because they also fuel your sellers in the future, but you should be like 75% sellers and 25% buyers.
It's a strategy, yeah. Every marketplace has its dominant listing brokers, and I would say all of you are on that list. Donna.
Well, I love listings because all of you try to bring buyers and help me sell it. But I love buyers because they have a checkbook and they're ready to buy. I listen to what their needs are and concerns, and I try to match the properties to them. I have my car cleaned every Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock.
She makes more money than I do.
Coming to my house and
She's a
washes
bit.
and
I have a
vacuums
Subaru. What do I have?
and details my car. And if I'm still out with a customer at that time, he will come and meet me, and I drive his car, and he takes mine. So I pack a cooler in my car with soda and water and juice and snacks for kids. And I drive a really nice car, and these kids can trash it. I don't care what they do. And I usually take them out to lunch. If we're running late, I will call places and have food delivered to my car. And I was showing condos in Boston, and we belong to the University Club. And my husband checks his bill because there are 3 Tom Scotts at the club. So he called them and said, there were 2 club sandwiches, and I don't order that for lunch. What is it? And so they said, oh, Mr. Scott, your wife called, and she had one of the guys deliver it over to this apartment building. And it's true. We were running late. The guy was hungry. He was a young doctor that went to college with my son, and he was looking for a condo. And I called the club, and they had somebody bring me lunch. So, I mean,
So we just say we're
them.
Donna Scott.
Thomas Scott. Thomas Scott. I have food in my car, too. It's usually on the floor.
And I've learned, after 17 years, sometimes you'll walk in a house and they'll say, well, it's not really what I want. I said, yeah, if you just make some changes. And just recently, 2 weeks ago, I sold a house in Natick, and the kitchen walls were orange. And I said to the girl, you need to do a few things here. And she looked at me and said, well, what would I need to do? This is my dream house. I said, well, maybe just paint like the orange walls, softer colors. I said, but yeah, it's actually really beautiful. And then you have to kind of catch yourself, because you know what? It's in the eyes of the beholder. You have to find them the best product and a nice neighborhood for their families, and you don't have to like it. And I think that's the best advice I can give you.
Yeah, that was a lot of great advice. Thanks, Donna. That's wonderful. Gail.
Well, for buyers, I don't run with a lot of them. Again, I am so lucky because I've got the best team going, and they're back there. And Brian and Margot help me with buyers, and Ed helps me with listings. And this is terrible. Can you just stand up quickly so I can say thank you? So please, stand up. I'm sorry, but I would not be where I am if it weren't for them and the support of this company in my office. Buyers, you've got to keep in constant contact with the buyers the same way with listings. And a lot of times, which I'll say is that if we know there's nothing on, they need to know you're looking. Every Wednesday we have our office caravan. So I might call a buyer, or I know these guys might call on Monday and Tuesday and say, you know, I'm going out on Wednesday looking at some of the new properties. Now, none of them may be right. We may know that in advance. It's not a lie. We are going out, but it's a reason to call. I'm going out Wednesday. Call them up Wednesday or Thursday and say, you know what? Not good enough. They're not right. I don't want to waste your time. The other thing is when someone calls, I said, I need you to make a wish list. I need to know, and I call it, it's your wish list, what you want. I want to know everything. I want to know if you've got a pet, if you've got a tall piece of furniture that needs a certain height. The reason I start with that is because I don't want to go directly and say, do you need a king-size bed? But I do want to know, do they need a bedroom that's going to take a king-size bed? What do they want? So they start working on a wish list for me. They also know. It's what?
Then you have a saw to cut the
Yeah, right.
down.
That ain't coming. But they also know that when they come to me, and basically the majority of my business is referrals. But we're going to introduce them to the community. I am involved in my community. They're going to get to meet people. They're going to get to meet similar people, people that will, you know, enrich their lives also. I also let them know that my job, you know, Brian, all of our job is to educate them in the market, and that's what we're here for, but we don't want to waste their time. I'm not going to show them a ranch house if they want a Victorian. And these are words that I'm saying to them, and that, but they have to hear, I think, the fact that we're going to educate them. We're not pushing them. This is what's happening in the market. I totally agree. If people's blood sugar level gets down, it's hard for them to concentrate. It's hard to keep going. So it's important. I look at some of these people or brokers that are taking buyers on these tours with like 6, 7 properties. It's like, where's lunch? Well,
In my car.
call Donna. But, you know, do have something. Stop if you have to. See if their eyes are getting glazed over. But again, you know, they need to know that you care, that you're there, that you're not pushing something. And there's something that said, I mean, I really feel strongly that they're buying a home. It's not just an investment. If you've had a bad day at the office, you've had a bad fight with someone, you can go home and enjoy where you are. And that's really what you're looking to find for someone, their home.
Fantastic. Well, you hear a lot of service orientation here and direction given to people. I think that's great. Well, did you learn anything today? Pick up any tips? Let's give a good round of applause. I really appreciate all of your time and effort here today. You've been incredible.